Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do some Cosmere musing. So I just had this kind of thought and I wanted to run it by all of you, see what your all opinions are on it. Let's ramble, let's have a little ramble session. So yeah, please feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Does this idea sound insane or can you contribute to the idea or something? Let's ramble about it. So this on this episode I kind of want to talk about the state of Roshar. So this video is going to have spoilers for Wind and Truth, and yeah, pretty much Wind and Truth is the primary spoilers. I don't think it really has spoilers for anything else, but it would just be Wind and Truth. This is a video specifically about the setting and the world building aspect of the way Brandon is going to tackle the planet going forward. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and if you're interested, and if you're interested in supporting the channel in another way, you can check out the Patreon. Link is in the description. All right, with that being said, let's begin. So, Roshar, after the events of Wind and Truth, we no longer have a high storm. The Stormfather was killed, and the high storm was basically destroyed. So now, Retribution, the combination of honor and odium, Retribution has modified his Everstorm to be a forever blanket over the planet. So now it is an entire storm that covers the entire planet. So now it is truly the forever storm, not even just the Everstorm, it's the forever storm. And it's also apparently the point of that death rattle that I was talking about, the Night of Sorrows. I thought the Night of Sorrows was going to be Odium's champion, but it's actually referring to the fact that there is no sunlight on Roshar except for in Urithiru and Azamir. So no one has any sunlight, and it's just this forever storm that's going around. So the storm that is there now, it doesn't move, so it doesn't really have any winds associated with it. It's just a lot of rain and a lot of lightning, and just this dense cloud cover that blocks out the sun. So the nature of Roshar, as we understand it before these events, is very dependent on the nature of its weather patterns. So most planets, probably every planet with life, I'd imagine, whatever. So like Earth and Scadrial, most planets that we know of that have life have soil, because the way in which soil kind of exists. The way in which soil is formed on planets like Earth, and I imagine anywhere else that has soil, like in the Cosmere, the way soil is essentially formed is essentially rocks and degraded organic life and plant matter and stuff like that. So when things die, they decompose and they degrade, and as they completely break down, the minerals and stuff inside the body that won't break down into absolute dust break down into small particles and stuff and essentially become soil. Same thing with sand. Sand is a different type of mineral, obviously, that is broken down from the decomposition of sea life and all that kind of stuff, and various things like that. So essentially sand and soil and stuff is a naturally occurring substance that is a byproduct of organic life existing on a planet. So the fact that Roshar has basically no soil except for in Shinovar can easily, in my opinion, fairly easily be explained through the high storm, which is pretty much why Brandon has it set up that way. So the soil that would naturally form due to decay and just the life cycle of the planet and everything doesn't really happen because of the frequency of the high storms. So the entirety of Roshar might honestly be, smaller as it started than, was smaller once upon a time than it is now, because the nature of the Crimstone. Well, I guess not. Because the crim that goes into the water, I imagine, doesn't harden at all. So it probably wouldn't increase the overall mass of the planet at all to any significant degree. But we know that all that crim that drops from the sky during the high storms basically creates rock formation. So essentially any degradation, any decomposition that would cause sand or soil to develop, essentially is covered over with crim. So the majority of the entire continent is completely rock. That's why there's no soil. But the storm, of course, gets weaker as it goes east or west. So by the time it gets to Shinovar, the storm is so weak that those natural processes can happen in a natural way, and therefore we have soil. We have things like regular earth or Yolan type grass and that kind of stuff. So everywhere else on Roshar has evolved in such a way to survive the high storms. So this leaves me to wonder, with the lack of a high storm anymore, which also means we don't have any free investiture. There's no stormlight, which is kind of insane. I mean, I guess it still could exist, but that's up to Retribution at this point. He's not doing it that way, which is probably going to disrupt an entire mercantile system, or an attempted mercantile system throughout Shazmar, which is probably why we don't have a lot of gems floating around in any of the future books that we've seen. Everything is in breath equivalent units, so it's probably for that reason. But So the rest of the planet essentially doesn't have the primary thing that directed its evolutionary cycle. So without a high storm, there's no creme. So without creme, everything won't be getting covered over with this rock substance. So and also the entire way in which everybody builds everything can be built kind of normally now. Now they just need greater eaves to deal with the water, and probably I don't just it'll flooding issues will just be a lot bigger of a consideration going forward. But it makes me wonder about the ecology and like the entire nature of the planet going forward. Like, will Brandon make this change? And granted, we probably won't ever actually see the change because the time jump between book 5 and 6 is only roughly 10 years. So therefore, there's not enough time on an evolutionary scale for anything to truly happen. So we probably won't actually see anything. But that's why I may want to make this video, because I would like to speculate and theorize and see, and kind of come up with some ideas and stuff about what the planet would eventually look like later. And, I wanted to see if you all had any opinions going in that direction. Are you that deeply nerdy about world building as I am to think this deeply about it? Let's find out. All right. So without the high storms, we don't get any creme dropping. So without the creme, and all we have is water, just regular rain coming from the skies. So assume Shinovar basically won't change, no difference there. But I wonder if over time, would the stone just become the way like clay is on Earth? You go deep enough into like the crust, you're just clay, and it's hardened to the point that it is essentially rock. So like, would it basically turn into that, and then all the natural processes of the decaying and all that stuff, would it then start to form things like soil and stuff later on, maybe in 1,000 years or something like that? Because they're not getting washed away and blown away in a specific way considering the high storm. So would they just, eventually would soil be able to develop elsewhere? Or does the nature of the ecology, because the way everything has evolved as it is, like would it prevent that somehow? Like rock buds. Would rock buds and stuff like die out? Would a species of them completely die, or would they? I mean, I guess essentially they would continue to evolve, but they would evolve in a direction that's more analogous to something like Shinovar, because Shinovar doesn't have rock buds or anything like that. So it makes me wonder, would like the rock part of the rock bud just like not form over time, and would it just be like vines that come out of the ground and stuff because it doesn't have to hide? Would like stump weight trees and stuff that fall down and all that kind of stuff, would later generations of them just kind of not do that anymore? I guess like how long on the evolutionary scale would it take for that kind of stuff to happen? So I really wonder about those long-lasting effects of not having a high storm anymore. But I also wonder about the effects of just the forever storm, like a planet where it's constantly raining all the time, and there's essentially two bubbles of place that has sunlight. So the lack of sunlight. I mean, I imagine retribution will do something to make sure that the people don't die, because without sunlight, especially on a planet like this is like the sun has major evolutionary properties and stuff like vitamin D and like all this other kind of stuff that's like very necessary to human development. At least I assume it is the same on Roshar. Like I imagine he like similar to Scadrial and stuff, how they had the denser atmosphere and everything, and the bodies of the humans there were changed in order to make sure that they could fit that environment. I wonder if Retribution did that or will do that, or if he's just too concerned about the rest of everything that was triggered to even consider it. So I wonder, but again, like a lot of these thoughts, I really do enjoy speculating and thinking about them a lot. But the time jump, I think, is just going to be too short for us to see anything about it. So kind of the speculation about it might be worthless, but it's a fun, thought experiment. So please let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it'll just kind of turn into like a Yolan kind of looking planet, or will it just eventually become something completely like different than we, have any idea? Like considering, I mean, but like I would say that I would think it would be similar to like the valley where the Night Watcher is or whatever, but that is like overgrown and hyper jungle like because of cultivation's influence. So that's not a naturally occurring situation. So I guess over thousands upon thousands of years, it would eventually look like Shinovar or something, some sort of equivalent. But I would really like to see that. I hope somewhere like how far down Sunlit Man is. I don't think it's that far in the future anymore, but assuming it is still pretty far in the future, I hope Nomad goes back to Roshar and go see what it looks like, and I hope it's different, especially with the time dilation and relativity and all of that. It should be an interesting amount of time if he ever goes back, which he probably can't because the situation that caused him to leave the planet, so he probably won't ever go back, but I don't know. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about this silly topic? Does your brain kind of go off on tangents and stuff like this, or you think of these little nuanced details? Let me know what you think about this subject in the comments down below. And as always, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and if you're interested in supporting the channel in another way, you can check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. So with that being said, I will talk to you all next time. Peace.